Okay, so Czechoslovakia, we can take a look at the national focus tree. It is rather more expansive than many of the vanilla trees, which is rather cool. You can see it all its loveliness over here. So it is kind of split up in much the same way as some of the Kaiserreich ones. So you have like the industrial ones, you have your political, your diplomatic, and then the military. So focus studies is actually really potent. This allows you to fortify the Sudetenland. So you do obviously get the event where you give away the Sudetenland, but if you want to try and hold it, you can get these, and they are really strong. So fortification studies increases land fort construction speed by 30%. You build forts really fast, especially if you take some of the advisors, which also increase fortification speed construction. And then you can get the Sudetenland fortifications. This one, which sets land fort to level 3. It doesn't just give you 3 levels, it sets it to level 3. Probably not, Elise. Hit me up in Discord about the elections, because I want to try and cover this, because it is a preview. Sudetenland advanced fortification, so it sets it to level 5, and then sets it to level 7. So you can basically have level 7 fortifications by the time Germany attacks. Furthermore, Sudetenland is almost entirely mountain. Well, he says clicking on one of the hills. But there's a lot of mountain here. Okay, there is just one mountain. Damn it, Mordred. I was building tons of mountain troops during my test game yesterday, and apparently I didn't really need to. No, it's actually mostly hills. Do mountain troops have bonus in hills? I think they do. Mountains and hills, yes they do. Not as big a bonus, but they do certainly have a bonus. Versus you guys who have no adjusters in that. So what I might do is build regular infantry units, but add a couple of mountain troops. Yes, this is a preview. This is not yet available. This is Death and Dishonor, which is the new upcoming expansion, which is released on the 14th of June. It is currently the 9th, so I get it 5 days ahead of time, and I've actually had it a couple of days before this, because Paradox are awesome! Okay, so back to the focus tree. So we have the fortifications. We can also upgrade the Hungarian line, the Polish line, fallback line, which is in Bohemia, so it's just behind the Sudeten, and then the internal readouts, which are Slovakia, in case things go really badly. Then we have the industrial legacy, and this is where the aforementioned divided nation comes in really, really interesting. So you can see minus 20% national unity. The only way to get rid of that focus is to get united population. The only way to get that is this mutually exclusive option here. So you can go down Czech industry, which gives you 3 civilian factories per level. It's pretty good. Or you can go down the Czechoslovak industry, where you're basically building your stuff in Slovakia rather than in the Czech Republic. You get a lot less factories, but you do get rid of divided nation. So if you think you're going to be fighting a defensive war, you probably want the Czechoslovak industry. If you think you're going to be more offensive, there's more of a gamble, you can take the Czech industry. So I kind of like that disparity. It's an interesting choice. And then one of the best things about the Czechs are this line here. So you'll remember that we get the plus 10 factory output permanently anyway. We also get arms exports, which decreases consumer goods factories required, production efficiency growth plus 5%. Then it gets upgraded even more. So infantry equipment production cost minus 5%. And then medium tank and heavy tank production cost also reduced. Like, Czech industry just flies off. It is absolutely amazing. I really like the Czechs just because of that, to be honest. Then you have the choices for politics. So you can either go left and join the Soviets, you can stay in the center and kind of hope that the West supports you by going democratic, or you can go right and go fascist and basically become a German partner or a German puppet even, which is interesting. Ah, yes, one of the other things is the fascist nations now have their own puppet system. So while the Allies have things like dominions, the fascists have things like satellites. I don't know exactly how that works. I haven't looked at it yet. I should probably do a game as Germany one of these days to see precisely how that goes. But yeah, kind of interesting. I went democratic last time. I might still do the same. I don't know. It kind of depends how this tree works over here. So we can get Bastion of Liberty, which increases division defense on core territory and also research time. And then this one, defensive preparations. Change mobilization law to extensive conscription. So you basically can save 300 political power by taking the defensive preparations. And trust me, you're going to need the manpower. You start with 184 men ready to join the military. So you will need to do your manpower stuff. However, this requires, and it doesn't actually tell you Oh no, sorry, it's Beacon of Liberty, which requires 70%. Excuse me, 70% support for the CSNS, which are the Democratic Party for the Czechs, and you have to have that one before you can get the defensive preparations. So you want to get this one fairly early, and you may even want to get the Democratic Reformer to get even more democracy support, because you need to get this up to 70%, and it isn't as easy as you may think before you can actually get the really potent military things. Am I reuniting the Austro-Hungarian Empire? No, I'm actively fighting against them. If I was reuniting them, I'd be playing as Hungary, probably. Right, more focuses. So that's those. Then you have the diplomatic stuff over here. So you can try and appease Germany, and probably goes hand in hand with being a German fascist. However, this leads to becoming a German puppet yourself. So you can do that. Deliver Sudetenland. Oh, you actually hand it over. Interesting. Or you can trust in the West, which means that the UK and France like you more. It also messes with the guarantees a little bit. This leads to more technology bonuses, or you can get the Entente of our own, which is trying to get Romania and Yugoslavia into an alliance rather than starting in the Allies, which is another interesting option. And I think this is what we're going to do today. So we can invite Yugoslavia, we can invite Romania, Pact Organization, I guess that's the science sharing. Security Council plus 15% max planning. That's pretty cool, especially if you go Grand Battle Plan. So yeah, we're doing an Entente of our own. Hey, Mistat. No, Mister. There's a T, Mistat. Okay, and then finally you have the military innovations, Military Technical Institute, Military Aeronautical Institute, which is interesting because we have the Aerosarcy, which is fighter production, plus 15%. And then finally, you will notice something about Czechoslovakia. You are completely landlocked. You're about as landlocked as it is possible to be landlocked. But you still get some naval techs, and they are actually kind of cool. The first one is only unlocked when you actually have a coastline, which makes sense. But then eventually you can have things like Southern Shipyard. No, not that one. Shipbuilding Legacy. I don't exactly understand how you have a shipbuilding legacy. You are landlocked. You are landlocked as far as I am aware that Bohemia has ever been landlocked. Bohemia being the proto-Czech state. So how exactly you have shipbuilding legacy, I don't know, but you build ships faster. Again, tying into the Czech industry level. I really like the Czech tree, I have to say, I really do. One other thing has changed in the tech tree, while we're talking about Czech tech trees. You now have an additional industry section here, which increases the conversion speed bonus by a whopping 80% once you have both. So that could well make it far more worthwhile to flip from civilian to military factories as the game goes on. I probably won't, but tying that bonus in with some of the other bonuses, like the war economy, civilian to military factory conversion, that would actually be a minus 100% conversion cost. Which would that mean that there is no cost? Possibly. In which case that's interesting. Although civilian factories still cost more than military. Like switching military to civilian I can understand, civilian to military less so, but that seems to be the more, I don't know, logical. I do think that there should be a penalty for military construction and less of a penalty for civilian. And then once you actually go to war, then you can start switching the civilians into military. That would make more sense, but considering they have the same penalties, Right, so what are our civilian factories going to do? Well, this is the start of the game. The only thing we can really do is infrastructure, because factories cost a lot. We're going to take a quick look at our industrial thing, and we'll notice that Sudetenland can have factories, Bohemia can have a lot, Moravia can have some, Western Slovakia and Southern Slovakia, Carpathia and Eastern Slovakia not so much, likewise with Zulci and Eastern Sudetenland. So we're going to be expanding like the south, but not the north. So we'll do Bohemia first up to level 10. Then probably Sudetenland, then Moravia, then Sudetenland. And that's just because Sudetenland is going to be something of a battlefield. Will I be invading the German traitors? I'm probably going to be playing super ultra defensive, considering we will be surrounded by enemies and cannot rely on the allies. We are going to start with a focus. We are probably going to get industrial legacy, so we can get civilian there we go. Civilian factory construction speed plus 5%. Again, industry. Freaking Czechs and their industry. It's amazing. And then research is going to be, surprise, surprise, construction. And basic machine tools and research. And then we're going to use our military factories. Now the Czechs actually start with quite modern military, especially in terms of armor. You start with the 1936 tanks, and Czech tanks are quite strong. So if we look at the tank designers over here, the CKD is a plus 15% bonus, so that's max speed plus 5%, reliability plus 10%. Tatra, which is reliability and soft attack, and then Skoda, which is armor and hard attack. All of them also have the minus 10% armor research time. So Czech tanks are pretty strong. And they were historically. Czech tanks were among some of the best. I think it was probably only the French. No. Yeah, it probably was the Czech tanks that were the best in the world. I mean, a lot of the German innovations came from the Czechs once they'd conquered Czechoslovakia. The Czechs had a navy, but they were only based on the major rivers. Oh, okay. So that river. Which river is that? Also flows Berlin. Interesting. Didn't know that. I should know what river this is, but I don't. If anyone can tell me what river that is, I would appreciate it. Okay, the next thing I want to show off is Air Force. So you will have noticed a couple of times that I've been hovering over the air bases. You'll see these circles. This is showing you the max ranges of the various air wings based within. So we click on it. You then get the interface, which immediately pops over to the strategic air interface and shows you rather more detail. You then have a list of the wings which are based in that airbase. So if you click on the different air bases, it switches around. It's all done from this view. It's quite nice. And then you can click on a wing and say, I want you in Eastern Germany. Boom, off they go. I want you in Western Germany. Boom, off they go. They are now active in those areas, and you can see just how much coverage they have because of this. So if you decide, actually, you guys need a bit better coverage of Eastern Germany, you can then shift them over to Bohemia, where the circle will then take that into account. So you can see there's one massive circle over here. That's probably because we have some tactical bombers. We do. That's these guys. Tactical bombers, you can see exactly how far they can fly. It's fantastic. Like, I would never have expected tactical bombers to have this much of a range. It's brilliant. So you can only imagine how far strategic bombers could fly. So yeah, it's interesting. Let's tell you to stop. So regular fighters we probably just want in Czechoslovakia, so we'll click on you. Close air support, we probably also want you active in Czechoslovakia. Tactical bombers, you could probably be bombing enemy infrastructure, honestly. Then the fighters and close air support have you both active here. You can then also click on the units and tell them what their activities will be, which is then summarized over there. So we're going to tell you to fly during the day. You are the tactical bomber. We'll probably have you on bombing. I'm going to have you strategic bombing at night. And then close air support, shoot down enemy tanks during the day. So cool. And then as you're doing that, you can see the wings down here with the different strengths. You can see which units are active in which areas. It's just such a nice interface compared to this. It's the Elbe. Of course it is. Yeah, I knew that. I've walked over it a couple of times. Like, I've been to Prague several times. Bit of background story, actually. There is a reason I have a bit of a love affair with the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia. I've been there several times. I would rank Prague probably as the nicest city in the world that I have been to, and I've been to a fair number of cities. The only real contender would be Vancouver over in British Columbia. So in Europe, certainly it's the nicest city. I absolutely love Prague, and I've been to the Czech Republic a number of times. I have a lot of friends over in the Czech Republic. I remember one story where I was talking to one of my friends in German. He didn't speak any English except for one phrase. The only English he knew was Czech beer is the best. That was it. I love the Czechs. They're awesome. And yeah, Czech beer is excellent. I think they are the second highest beer consumers in Europe. Possibly the highest. It's either them or Poland. I forget which. And Czech beer is really, really good. Like, kudos to them. Right, military factory. So we could start building some of the interwar air force. I don't think I want to do that. We could get some of the close air support, though. These are actually modern. So we'll start building some of those. We'll get some more infantry equipment because we'll need it. I think we should also get some artillery going because we will need that. And I'm really sorely tempted to start building some light tanks. And get some tank divisions going. We are the Czechs after all, and the Czechs had amazing tanks. Yeah, we'll do it. Good. What else needs to be done? I think that's about it. We can finally unpause the game. We have no army experience, so we can't change the divisions at all. We don't have enough manpower, let alone equipment, to actually change any of that. One other thing, actually. We'll grab you all together and start you training. No, we won't. What we're actually going to do is get rid of the air forces. As much time as I just spent setting all that up, I'm actually going to disband them all. And the reason for that is because I want the manpower so I can start training troops. And there we go. Oh man, that's so nice. Because I realised yesterday, if you have no manpower, then you don't actually train at all. And there we go. Let's beef up the speed, and off we go. Czech and Belgian beer is the best. I don't know if I agree with you, Belgian. I mean, I'm biased, because I like Dutch beer. But it's not bad, I guess. Okay, we immediately lose all manpower. Are we still training? Oh, it is still training. So we'll just need to keep an eye on this, and once these bars stop moving, because they will at some point, then we stop training. So we're getting the industrial legacy. We should be getting a lot of political power because we're not on veteran, and this isn't Kaiserreich, so there's no party popularity mechanics. So we'll do that. I mean, how quickly will we need to work on Entente of our own? Quite quickly, I think. So maybe we'll get the industrial legacy and then start working on that. The next question also is, do we want to go Czech industry or Czechoslovak industry? Probably Czechoslovak for the divided nation. I mean, the 0.5 recruitment hurts, though it's not terrible. And other things. It's mainly the 20% national unity. I mean, we're sitting at 50% national unity, which is pathetic. That will improve, but only slightly. We can probably get it up to about 60% with all the national focuses. So what do you think? Quick poll of chat. Czech industry or Czechoslovak? Czech industry is we get more factories. Czechoslovak we get less factories. I think it's a difference of 3. But we get rid of the divided nation penalty, which also has the consumer goods factories penalty, though it's not a huge one. I mean, this is why it's so interesting. Like, on its own, recruitable population and consumer goods factories aren't that big of a deal, but the national unity could be because it's 20%. That's a big percentage. So it matters. It is a meaningful choice. I like that. See, I think we should get these before they start going fascist or anything. So let's grab that. Czechoslovak, unite the country. So that's 2 for Czechoslovaks and 1 for Czech. No, I totally could have done this as a troll poll, but I don't think it's really worthwhile. Do I have any tea left? Did I drink it all? It's all gone. Why is the tea gone? It's because I didn't have time to actually get any more between streams. Okay, so we have mechanical thingy. Let's get mechanized computing. Huzzah. You guys done training? Oh yeah, a bunch of you are. Sweet. And are you guys still improving? No. So now we're going to stop your training because you are not going up at all. We're at speed 5, so we can definitely see the bars shifting over time. Well, it certainly looks like it's going to be Czechoslovak, so we'll go down the Czechoslovak line once we've got the Entente of our own. And I think we'll invite Yugoslavia and Romania straight away. And then after that we'll probably stop until we have Czechoslovak industry finished. And possibly fortification studies. I mean, we need to be on the ball. Like, the Second World War usually kicks off in 38. And it certainly kicked off in a really big way in 38, where basically everyone went to war. I kind of felt sorry for Germany, actually, because suddenly they were just surrounded by enemies. To be fair to them, they lasted until 42? Late 41? Late 41, I think. Italy joining was a big thing against France. France actually capitulated. Even though we had Germany completely surrounded, they still managed to capitulate France. Mostly because France didn't have any troops in the Alps, because they were all busy fighting the Germans. It was interesting times. Next national focus is going to be an Entente of our own. The Little Entente has lapsed in recent years, but it could yet rise again if our former allies are willing. Let's do that. I mean, we might be doing this a little bit too early. In fact, I kind of suspect that we might be. And we can also modify government. Can we mobilize? We can. Let's start doing that. Actually, we were super close to getting another one. Yay! Unfortunately, we won't be able to partial mobilize until world tension's at 15%. It's currently at 6, thanks to the Civil War. Right. Are there any of these that we want? We don't have anyone that can increase construction speed of factories. You can get the industrial concern, but this isn't Kaiserreich, so this is just research time, which is a bit meh. Chief of Army. No, I think we need the design people. Possibly limited conscription. But because we can get the 300 political power saving, we don't really need to get manpower yet. Material designer. Take down Hungary quickly, then Poland and Bulgaria. Yeah. I think I might just get the tank designer, or maybe the aircraft designer. Let me see. Tank designer, because we already have the 36 tank, so it won't affect that. But it will affect the 39 medium. Or the heavy. We don't get any bonuses with heavy tanks. Our production advanced exports only are light and mediums. So I think we're going to be focusing on medium tanks mostly, but they don't become available until 39. Do we have the technology which allows us to get medium tanks earlier? Because we might. No, we don't. Disappointed! We do, however, get the mountain troops. Reduce ahead of time penalty by minus 100%. For mountaineers. I think I'm still going to go for the tank designer. I'm not going to go for the heavy tank because armor I don't really care about. Reliability and soft attack could be useful, but actually I think that this one's better because high reliability means that we can invest more into armor and gun upgrades. So we're going to get the CKD, plus it's a 15% bonus as opposed to just 10 from the others. And now the T really is gone. Disappointed! Okay. We do have some points. We have sufficient to add mountaineers to you. I think that's what we're going to do. And then the mountaineer units that we have, which are dedicated mountaineers, there's only one of you. I'm going to turn you into infantry. I'm going to try a different tactic here. We're going to be mixing up infantry and mountaineers. Because we're not as mountainous as I thought. And it's a lot cheaper doing it this way. So that mountaineer unit will need to retrain. So we won't need to retrain by much, I don't think. Construction's almost finished. Get a military theorist. Yeah, that's probably a good option. It's either air experience or land experience. Though that is land doctrine research time. Which I haven't even started doing yet, which I probably should. We could get the SPG light tank. Problem is having to wait until 39 for this. I think I'm still going to try and research it ahead of time. The other one that we want are field hospitals, because manpower will be a constant battle. Let's get motorized. And then maybe fighters. That's the other question. What kind of aircraft design do we want? So I know that the medium designer here is really good. Aero, which is heavy fighter and tactical bomber reliability plus 20%. Again, for the same reason as the tanks. This means you can make a lot of variant changes. Oh, that's true. Yes, we should totally be building anti-tank units. That is a very good point. Thank you. We'll do that once one of these is finished. What was I looking at? Tech. No, designers. So that's really good. But, and here's a query which I don't know. The Ares RC, fighter production cost minus 15%. Does that include heavy fighters? Or is that just purely fighters? I mean, we can still build fighters. It's just generally not really worthwhile to get both fighters and heavy fighters. Although fighters are mostly air superiority, heavy fighters are better at taking down bombers, so we could have air intercept with the heavy fighters. and use them for different reasons, which isn't a bad idea. The other options are naval aircraft. Agility and max speed for fighters. I mean, this only affects one type of aircraft, but that +10/+10 is pretty good. And then strategic bombing +10%. Not great. So it really is between you two. Aero or Avia. That's a +40% bonus to their +10. It's got to be Aero, really. So we'll go heavy fighters, tactical bombers. We will also build fighters of our own. We just won't build as many of them. And we won't need to because they'll be cheaper. Alright, cool. Entente of our own is finished, so we have their own faction. These are both 70 days. It's horrible. Yeah, let's invite them, and then we'll get back to the industry. I mean, I want to get started on the industry, because the sooner we get the civilian factories up and running, the better. Let's invite Yugoslavia first. Okay, see if this works. This is definitely a very different direction than I went last time. No allied support. The Games of the 11th Olympiad. The 11th Olympic Games have recently been held in Berlin, Germany. Okay, cool. Germany's just going to steamroll you with sheer weight of numbers. I'm not sure about that. Because of the fortification studies line over here, if we get these up, and we definitely should, probably in 37 we'll start researching these. There's basically 3 level 7 forts on our entire border with Germany. It is a really strong choice. And it essentially means that we have our own Maginot line. I mean, the flavor text basically says, we've been studying Maginot and we need to build our own. And it makes you very hard to invade. Especially by tanks, which don't function particularly well in, actually, hills. I think they're okay. It's forests that tanks struggle in. Yeah. Minus 2.5% attack in hills. Minus 12.5% in forests. Minus 10 in mountains. They actually suck worst in forests. Like, tanks are worse in forests than mountains, which is something that kind of blew my mind. I knew they were terrible in urban. Amphibious, they're terrible. Rivers, they're pretty bad. Marsh, they're pretty bad. They're worst in jungle, and then forest, and then mountain. There's a bunch of focuses that give you less consumer factories. Yeah, I know. The arms exports ones do. Yugoslavia in the Entente. Yugoslavia has agreed to join the Entente. Military delegation arrived to discuss defensive arrangements. Excellent. Alright. How about it, Romania, old buddy, old chum, old thing? Both of these are pretty significant military powers, like regional military powers. So, combined against Hungary would be pretty good, and then we can form a solid front against Germany. Am I going to change ideologies? I haven't decided yet. Little Entente reaffirmed. Czechoslovakia has today announced that the almost defunct Little Entente alliance system will stand by their commitments. A statement released by the Foreign Office announced, Czechoslovakia is not a great power, but it is a regional power. It is our firm belief in the alliance of regional powers can and will prevent the so-called great powers from meddling in our affairs. Together, we are a great power. Alright, so it's a good question about ideology. I don't think we really want to go right. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is to counter German strength. Although it would allow us to invade Hungary. Oh! Czech consolidation replaced divided nation with Czech fascism. Plus 20% national unity. And that way you can become a German partner. And this would allow us to pick on Hungary. And Poland. Maybe we will go fascist. In which case we need to do this early so that we can flip. We would also need the fascist dude. I don't know, I kind of fancy fighting Germany though. How are these guys doing? Like, what direction? Non-aligned, agrarian reform. Have you made any decisions? Preserve Greater Romania. They haven't decided yet, I don't think, on which of these to do. Yeah, they haven't done very much yet. They've just gone down there. They're going for their industrial things. Right, so that is Romania. What about Yugoslavia? Western focus. Friendship treaty with Italy. Attract foreign capital. Well, they've not gone communist, at least. And they haven't done any of these yet. I really hope they don't go down the concessions, because they don't need to. With the exception of the non-discriminating officer promotion. Requires one of the following. Yeah, you can do it with either. Reduced fighter cost does not affect heavy fighters. Okay, good to know. I don't know at the moment. I'm not going to go either way. Possibly too late to go fascist. Seems like something should be started as soon as possible. Yeah, I think I'm going to go democratic just because I fancy beating up Germany. But as we're independent of the Allies, we could theoretically go after the Allies too. I mean, we are our own faction now. Which has its own interesting ramifications. So at this point we could modify the government to bring in the fascist dude. I don't think we really need to do that though. We're inviting Romania. We were talking about getting a military theorist. Air warfare or land. I mean, air research is harder to get, and you do tend to spread it more thinly over different aircraft. Land experience is easier to get, but you need to do the changes early on, before you're in a war. No, I'm going to go air warfare theorist. We're going to make air power our strong thing.